And then what's crazy is that you don't need like David to come with a harp and play for you. We have things called like Spotify and YouTube and technology they never had back then, right? And you can hit play and you can listen to any song you ever want to listen to. But then it's not just music. Because then a lot of people get hung up on the fact that worship is music. I'm like, well, there's so much more. Music is like one small aspect of it. There's so much more to loving God. That's what worship is, right? It's desiring and loving God and trying to show that love from the depths of who you are. And there's so much more to it than just, a couple songs that we do on Sunday morning. It's a lifelong thing. It should be a lifelong thing. Something that we're always doing is loving our Lord, right? And expressing that love. And so it's absolutely amazing to me that I sometimes feel that little kids get it more than I do. Me personally. And I'm just like, oh man, when did I ever lose that? So watch this. If it doesn't go backwards.
Don't cry at this video.
Can you raise the volume?
The sweetest video to end our show. A baby boogies after hearing music for the first time.
I used to watch that show.
Baby Manning James of Roanoke, Virginia, just couldn't help but giggle and dance when he heard music for the first time. He got cochlear implants. The 10-month-old was born profoundly deaf in both ears. The video shows Manning enjoying the music as he watches his favorite show, Muppet Babies. Manning's mom says it brought her to tears.
Just amazing.
Come on, right? So he was mostly deaf, and then they got, how's it pronounced? That word there. And he could hear for the first time. And so they played music for the first time. Did you guys see his instant reaction? Right? So what changes from that age to where I am today? And why does it change? It's instinctual. You don't have to teach a baby to dance. You play music and their body begins to move. You guys know God created music, right? He created the ears that you listen with. Like he created all of that. And he created it such a beautiful and powerful thing. And when little kids do it and they hear that beauty, that notes, the music, wow, they just begin to dance. And so again, I question, why does that change when we get older? At what point do we become ashamed of doing a little dance in front of everyone and being silly? At what point do we stop just letting go and being like, it doesn't matter, I just want to let it out, right? And worship, for me, is founded in just that. It's this overwhelming love and appreciation for who God is, what he does, that it just explodes out of you and you just want to, oh God, you are so awesome. Lord, I love you. You are, wow. And it just flows out of you. Often I tell you guys, if you stayed up super late last night and you come in, you're just like, oh, I'm so tired. I'm like, well, try raising your arms. Try clapping. Try jumping up and down. Because when you do, for some reason, your heart begins to follow. Adrenaline starts pumping, everything starts moving, and then everything inside of you is like, well, I got to do what the body's wanting me to do anyway. You control your body. Your body doesn't have to tell you what you're allowed to do and not do, right? So if it's like, I feel tired, I want to go to sleep, be like, no, I'm going to jump up and down right now, and you're going to listen to me. You can tell your body what to do, to a degree. I mean, when your knees have given out, they've given out, but I look forward to worshiping in heaven. New bodies, lots of dancing. Anyways, I'm going to change gears here, because I'm moving from something super exciting to obedience. Oh, no one likes that word. Obedience is a big part of worship, right? You want to talk about being intimate with God. Worship is intimacy, right? So you want to talk about being intimate with God, and it has its foundation in obedience. I mean, if you're disobeying your dad, how are you showing him you love him? It seems like a basic foundation. So I'm going into that. On that note, I want you guys to know that we were created to worship, which means you are called to worship, which means God is saying, hey, come on. Let's share intimacy together. It's not a one-way street. It's not just you. God's there trying to get your attention. He shows love on you all the time. You may not see it. Maybe you're blind. You may not see it. But he's there looking to love on you all the time, right? And so there is a call to worship. We were called, we were created to do what that little baby did. Just dance, to let it out, to love God, right? There's an important part to, when we do what we were created to do, and we all have different giftings, right? We're all built a little bit differently. But when we do what we were created to do, there's a joy that just begins to happen. Like God designed you for a purpose. And when you're living in that purpose, it's like, oh. So I'll never forget my oldest who when he was younger, would just run all over the place. The thing about Micah is like, it was great. I got lucky with my first one. He would go to sleep at like 8, 9 and wake up at like 9 in the morning and he'd play with his toes and laugh. So my alarm clock was this giggling child, and I'm just like, parenting is easy. Yeah, God got his revenge with my second. But anyways. So he'd wake up at 9, right? And then he would take a nap from 1 to 4. Like, he was only awake for like 7 hours. But here's the thing, like when he was awake, there was no distraction, like no distracting thing you could possibly do. TV was useless. Toys, he just wanted to go, whether crawling, scooching, just go back and forth and back and forth. So as he got older, he was just like, I love to run. And it's like, yeah, I know. And he would go and just run and run. And I truly believe that when he starts doing things like that, like acting in that way, he's doing part of like what God just designed him to do, and he gets close to God, right? I kind of have a little proud moment here. Got a message from his teacher. He was running 600-meter dash on Friday, and he was pushing, and I think he was passing this boy from a different school entirely, except the other boy was like, I can't do this. I think I'm just going to collapse. There's no way I can do this. And Micah slowed down, was like, no. We're going to do it together. Come on, we can do this. He didn't care about like what place he got in at that point. He's like, we're going to complete this together, and went. And I just know that he was doing like God's calling by running, and that God opened up that opportunity. And I'm just like, it's like when you do what you were created to do, what God has made you to do, it just opens up this thing of worship. It really does, because it's like, I don't know. He sits back. And so I'm dad, right, for my son, and I smile. I'm proud. I'm Jonah. I got so many stories flying through my head right now of the things that you do. I love you, son. I just don't have time for too many stories. Okay. Baby girl, you too. Anyway. Oh, shoot, where was I? Anyone? Where was I before I said that? ADD moment. It's okay. No one? Anyone? See, you guys aren't paying attention anyway. When we do what we're called to do, Father in heaven leans back and he smiles and he's like, that's what I made him to do, right? And he's proud and he's glowing and it just creates this beautiful moment of intimacy, okay? So we need to be doing what God made us to do, okay? And don't forget, God did call us into worship. He created us to worship, okay? Awesome. Of course, Luigi didn't write down where this is from. Job 39. I love reading Job 38 and 39 because God gets curt. I'll use the word curt with Job, okay? And he starts, like, I just picture this whirlwind, which is like to me a tornado, and God is speaking from like this roaring tornado. Now you will sit and be quiet. I was thinking of something. Shut up. You will sit and be quiet, and you will listen. And he's like, who laid the foundations of the earth? Do you know who placed? And you read that, I'm just like, when I'm reading it, I can hear it. So he gets to this part of the ostrich. And I love this part because it's, I don't know, I think the ostrich is a kind of a funny looking creature, right? And I think God designed it to be kind of funny looking or a little bit intriguing. Verse 13, Job 39, the ostrich flaps her wings grandly, but they're no match for the feathers of the stork. You ever see like the big wings of I say big, but they're like little tiny things. Ostriches can't fly. Like, why did you even make that a bird? Anyways, she lays her eggs on top of the earth, letting them be warmed in the dust. She doesn't worry that a foot might crush them or a wild animal might destroy them. She's harsh towards her young, as if they were not even her own. She doesn't even care if they die. For God has deprived her of wisdom. He has given her no understanding. But then verse 18, but whenever she jumps up to run, she passes the swiftest horse with its rider. There's like a moment of just like, he's like, oh yeah, it's a silly creature. Did you see it flap its wings compared to anything else? It's ridiculous. Doesn't even care about her young, doesn't care if they die. But this is the way God designed her. But then he's like, but when she gets up to run, when she does what I've created her to do, she bypasses any horse. Like, it's just, there's a beauty, there's a like, whoa moment. because that was his purpose. It wasn't all the other stuff. We get hung up on stuff like that all the time. Like, God, you gifted me in this way, but wouldn't it be nice if I had that one too? But we need to just be focused on what we were meant to do. And when you're walking in that, I'm telling you, something in your heart opens up that you can begin to just worship and love God. Okay? So we were created with purpose, and we need to be obedient to our purpose. Okay? And obedience is a huge, huge part of that intimacy. Like I said, how can you sit and say, Lord, I love you, and he asks you to do something, you're like, nah. Right? Yeah, it just doesn't work like that, right? So it's a big, big part of intimacy. You need to hear the Lord. You need to listen to the Lord, and not just in action. You see, a lot of people get hung up on the action. Okay, Bible says I got to do this. Great, I have this formula. It's written out for me. I'm going to follow this formula. There, God, you happy? I did what you asked me to do. It's not about that. It's about your heart. Because obedience, first and foremost, starts in the heart. It doesn't start in the actions. Can you like, I can ask you to do something, and you can do it, right? And you may be like, I'm being obedient. I've done what you've asked me to do. And I can be like, no, you haven't. Because you didn't do it in your heart first. You didn't do it in your heart first. Worship, first and foremost, starts in your heart. You can do the actions, but if they're not on the foundation of what is going on in your heart, they're just useless actions. It's got to come from within the heart. And what happens in the heart first needs to come with obedience. When God asks you to do, you do. You don't believe me? So again, worship is intimacy, and we're talking about intimacy here, okay? So hero number one for me, Matthew chapter 6, the baptism of Jesus. Then Jesus went from Galilee to the Jordan River to be baptized by John. And John tried to talk him out of it, as would I. So why are you coming to me? I don't understand this. I'm the one who should be baptized by you, right? And I love Jesus' response, right? Did you ever get your kids who analyze and just need to know why you're doing anything and everything? It can get frustrating sometimes. Why? I remember when they were really young. Why? Because God designed it that way. Why? Yeah, I don't know. Why don't you know? It's like, oh my goodness. That question, why? And they need to know how everything works, right? But sometimes obedience doesn't have time to tell you how it all works. I'm sorry, with God designed the sun to do what it does, the earth to do what it does, and he can't be like, well, I designed it because be here for 3 days. He's like, no, I just asked you to do something and you just do it. Jesus is there, and John's like, why I should be baptized by you? Why are you making me do this? And Jesus said, it should be done, for we must carry out all that God requires. He didn't give him a 10-page explanation of why this needed to happen, all the spiritual things that were happening behind the fact here. He was just like, God requires it. That's it. That's the answer I'm giving you. John, God wants it to be done this way, and that's enough. And John's awesome because he does. He agrees. After his baptism, as Jesus came up out of the water, the heavens were opened, and he saw the Spirit of God descending like a dove and settling on him. And a voice from heaven said, "This is my dearly loved Son who brings me great joy." Why? Okay, sure, it's Jesus, but because he was obedient. Like I said, there was no explanation given. It was like, well, why do I have to baptize you? God requires it. Okay, he does it. And in that moment of obedience, even Jesus, all of heaven opens up. And like I said, when we do what we were created to do, God leans back and he's got this big, goofy grin on his face like, yes. So that's exactly what Jesus did. Jesus was the first to show obedience. I'm going to shoot them at you a whole bunch more, okay? Genesis 6:9. This is the story of Noah. This is the account, so Genesis 6, chapter 6, verse 9. I don't know if you feel like running there, writing it down, reading it later. The story of Noah. This is the account of Noah and his family. Noah was a righteous man, the only blameless person living on the earth at the time, and he walked in close fellowship with God. He walked. You ever play that in your mind? You ever take a walk with someone, your spouse, along the beach, along something beautiful, and you're just enjoying? It's an intimate moment. Even if it's with a friend, you talk about life, you're side by side, if something gets in the way, you got that support. You're adventuring together, you're creating this is what I did with my dad. I got to hang out with my friend, and we did this and this and this and this together, and they're side by side with you. So when I think of Noah walking side by side with God, I'm like, they walked in close fellowship, right? And so why? Noah built a boat on dry land. And they were like, you're crazy. We're just building a boat there? What are you doing? Me personally, I disclaimer, Luigi personally believes that there was no rain up until this point. Okay, you don't have to believe me, you can believe what you'd like, but like in Genesis when it talks about and the Lord separates the water from the water, I believe there was like a layer of water in the atmosphere that made everything so pure, so like oxygen, everything that people got to live to be over like 800 years old, so forth and so on, right? And so I don't even think they knew what rain was. I think water came up from the ground. That's me personally. You don't have to agree with me, and I'm cool with that, okay? It's just a different way of thinking, okay? So I truly believe that they were like, you're really crazy. Not only are you building a boat on ground, but you're talking about something falling from the sky? The sky is falling. Haha, you're funny. But it happened. He was obedient to the Lord, and there was a flood. There was so much water that it wiped out most of humanity, all humanity except for Noah and his family. But he was obedient. Despite whatever came against him, Noah was obedient, and therefore he walked in close fellowship with God. They walked side by side. They enjoyed intimacy. Worship was involved. Okay? Acts 13:22. This is just referring to David. So you can go to the original in David, but I like the way he kind of summarized it in Acts, so I went to Acts. Acts chapter 13, verse 22. But God removed Saul and replaced him with David, a man about whom God said, I have found David, son of Jesse, a man after my own heart. And then I bold and italicized. If you highlight in your Bible, you can right there. He will do everything that I want him to do. A man after my own heart. Why? Because anything I ask of David, he'll do. Do you see how obedience and intimacy go hand in hand? Okay? When you do what God has called you to do, no matter how ridiculous, how silly, how even if you feel ashamed, the dancing in front of people, that's kind of terrifying. I mean, you can do anything. Anyway. He will do everything I want. They enjoyed intimacy because David was obedient. Again, we are called to worship. Okay. You want to know where worship was first used in the Bible? If you haven't followed me till now, you're going to hate me after this one. Okay, Genesis 22, verse 3. The next morning, Abraham got up early. He saddled his donkey and took 2 of his servants with him, along with his son Isaac. Then he chopped wood for a fire for a burnt offering and set out for a place that God had told him about. On the 3rd day of their journey, Abraham looked up and saw the place in the distance. Stay here with the donkey, Abraham told the servants. The boy, didn't even call him son, the boy and I will travel a little further. And I underlined it for you. We will worship there. This is the first time worship is used in the Bible. Do you know what Abraham was going to go do? Have you read that? He was going to go sacrifice his son to the Lord, to kill his son for the Lord. This is the first time worship is used in the Bible. I told you if you didn't like me before, it was all about obedience. God wanted obedience from Abraham, who left everything to go here to this moment, who waited years and years and years and years and years before he had his son that was promised to him. And then God says, okay, now you're going to sacrifice him. Obviously, he didn't get to go through with it, but he did in his heart, because it's all about the heart. Everything revolves around what is going on inside of you. That's where worship happens. That's where everything is based out of. So there's Abraham, dagger in hand, as his son says, we're missing something, Dad. Where's the sacrifice? As I tie you up and place you on top. Like, oh, Dad, what are you doing? Like, can you imagine what son was going through in that moment? God stopped him right at the end and knew that he was willing to in his heart and counted him as righteous in that moment. And when you read later on, it says that Abraham knew that he could have been raised from the dead. This is what God required. The rest was irrelevant. That's intense. The first time worship is used, but it's based on obedience. It's based on doing what you were made to do and listen to God and enjoy that intimacy with God. And that's where that intimacy comes from, is that together walk with God, but it starts in obedience. John chapter 4, but the time is coming, indeed it's here now, when true worshipers will worship the Father in spirit and in truth. In fact, the Father's looking for those who will worship him in that way. For God is spirit, so those who worship him must worship him in spirit and in truth. Year one, Bible college, had to write like a 15-page essay on this one. It's a basis, massive basis on like defining what worship is. And it talks about like two things. In spirit, so spirit is like what died when we ate of the fruit. It's what connects us to God. It's the part that just connects us to God, and we were disconnected. So we need to be connected with God, right? And I love saying the two spots where God claims that you're disconnected. One is to Adam. Adam, where are you? As he walks in the garden. And it's not because he doesn't know where Adam is. It's because he's declaring me and you are separated. And the other one is when he asks Satan, where have you been? In Job, at the beginning of Job there. Where have you been? It's not because God doesn't know where he is. It's a declaration saying me and you are separate. Okay? So we have to be connected spiritually in the depths of who we are. But then it uses the word truth. How do you throw truth in there? I have it defined. There it is. Truth. The reality lying at the basis of an appearance. I love how I talked about the appearance part in that, right? Because like I said, you can put your hands up, you can clap, you can do an outward appearance of things. But it's not about the outward appearance of things. It's about the reality on the inside. So when it talks about worshiping in truth, it's talking about the depths of your heart, your relationship with God and the depths of your heart, of what's going on there, of the truth of what's going on inside of you. You can say, Lord, I love you, Lord, I love you. I can say to my wife, hon, I love you, I love you, I love you. But then, she gets up at 7 o'clock in the morning to make sure the kids are ready on the bus. She makes them lunch. She prepares, and all in the back of her head is, I have to go drive here to meet with this client. I then have to do this test because I'm also doing full-time schooling. So she's working full-time. She's doing like schooling. She has to do stuff online. And then I crawl out of bed after the kids are gone, a couple hours later. And it's like, and do you know about, she's like, I'm busy, I got to work, what do you mean? I don't know about that, I can't take care of that for you. Oh, sorry. And then I go off to work, and I come here, and then I come home, and the kids are, you should see my house. My house is in the center of the community. There is no 5 minutes where there isn't a knock on my door that someone says, can Micah come out? Can Jonah come out? Can Amelia come out? It's like, we're eating dinner. Oh, okay. 3 minutes later, knock, knock, knock. No, we're still eating dinner. Look. I'll leave the window open so you can actually see us eating dinner. Okay. For those of you in the parking lot, I'm sitting like doing binoculars with my hands, pushing my face up against the window, staring at us eating. I'm like, that's not what I meant. Okay. And so I come in and it's like, hon, where's dinner? What do you mean where's dinner? I've been working all day. I've been meeting with clients. The kids just got home. They want snacks. They want to go out and play. They're asking me questions about this happened in school and that happened in school. Mom, I can't believe this happened. You have to call my teacher. You have to call the principal. This happened on the bus. Can you do that? And she's still doing studying. She's still doing like work. And I come in and where's dinner? But somehow she manages to get it all done. And not that she always does. We share. I'm really painting a bad picture of myself here. On purpose, though, okay? Please have mercy on me. Okay? So she cooks, and so we all eat, and then, a couple hours later when you walk through the kitchen, it's like, oh my goodness, no one did the dishes, no one cleaned up those pots and pans, things are starting to dry, and it's just kind of left there. Luigi, you're horrible. Evening comes, Megan tucks them into bed. I get to do watching shows with them, so like 7 o'clock, me and Amelia watch How to Train a Dragon together, and then she gets tucked in and put to bed, and then at 8 o'clock, me and the boys watch cartoons together, and then as 9 o'clock rolls around, Megan goes to tuck them in, right? Then Megan comes back, I'm like, hon, do you want to cuddle? Yeah? Boom! You want to cuddle? You want to cuddle now? You make me do everything. The house is still a mess because I still haven't even begun that, and you want to cuddle? Yet we do the same thing with God. I'm telling you, we do the same thing with God. You come Sunday morning, all week long, you're like, oh, I'm too busy with work, too busy with this, too busy with that. I'm like, come on, you got Spotify. You can listen to worship music. You can love God in the act that you're doing. I don't care if you're mucking out stalls. Okay? And be like, God, you gave me a wonderful body to put to work. It stinks in here. I don't care. I'm just going to do what I need to do right now and love it. Because you've given me life, you've given me a nose, even though this is gross. But you've designed all of this, and it's still beautiful. And I'm not working for my boss, I'm working for you, Lord. So I'll take pride in what I do. You can worship in moments like that. You can worship throughout the week, but we don't. We grumble, we moan, I got to go do this, I got to go do that, and there's this I got to do running around. And we ignore God all week long. And then we come Sunday, it's like, God, will you cuddle with me? You're lucky he doesn't throw something at you. Okay, it's true. If he did, well, man, we'd be in trouble. But why do we only look for intimacy when it's convenient for us? Look at that baby. Music played and he started dancing. He appreciates every moment of life, the first time to hear music. What if everything was the first time every single day? What if you took the time to appreciate when you first opened up your eyes the idea that you're awake, that you have a life to experience, that there's a beautiful sun shining outside, or even if it's cloudy and raining, be like, God is sending the rain today. The flowers will grow tomorrow. God has got a plan. Look how beautiful that is. Can you imagine if you began to live your everyday life like that? You would be in worship all the time. You'd be sitting there looking for intimacy, appreciating the beauty of everything that God has done in every moment of life, no matter what circumstance you're in. And let me tell you that you will walk with God. And it'll be an intimate thing. And nothing, when you sing the song, and nothing stands before you, everything's all going to fall with God before you, what can stand against? You sing that song, it's like, yeah, no, that becomes a reality. I've got God beside me. Creator of everything that I know, walking right beside me because he loves me. And I'm walking in his love every day. And I'm loving him back with all of who I am. It's important to do. Let's see what I missed in my notes. Oh, see, look, I did. I love my boo. That's what I call her. Don't call her that. That's just me. So, where does truth reside? In the depths of what is going on inside your son. Here's an easy one for you. Matthew 21. It's the parable of two sons, starting in verse 24. But what do you think about this? A man with two sons told the older boy, son, can you go and work in the vineyard today? The son answered, no, I'm not going to go. That's my sense. Anyway. But later, he changed his mind and he went anyways. Then the father told the other son, you go. He said, yes, sir, I will. I'll go do that. But he didn't go. And God asks, well, which one actually obeyed the father? Simple one. But it's always based on obedience. Right? After that, when I'm like, not just who did the obedience, but who did God or who did the Father be like, thank you. At the end of that, who is like, you did what I asked you to do. Now we can enjoy some time together. Now we can, and I'm just like, simple, silly parable to show a very easy truth that obedience is necessary for intimacy. It's what starts your worship off, right? And it's not just obedience in the everyday, right? It's about being obedient to be who God made you to be. Letting go of all else, being like, the rest doesn't matter. God is my security. God is my provider. God is... 1 John 3:18. My little children, let us not love in word or in tongue, but in deed and in, so it doesn't omit this one, and in truth. So there it is again, right? Deed on its own isn't good enough, just so you know. It says, in deed and in truth. So I feel like we're working backwards here. It starts in your heart. Out of an overflow of what's going on in your heart, you begin to do. After you begin to do, then you can start using your words and your tongue. After I've decided to make lunch, the night before for my kids and said, hon, you don't need to worry about that. You can just wake up with them, make sure they eat breakfast, but lunch is already ready for them. I'll do dinner tonight. I'll take care of the dishes. Don't worry about it. Not just saying it, but doing it, and then her seeing it. Then when I come say, hon, you want to cuddle? It's like, oh yeah, I don't have to worry about anything else. It's all taken care of, right? We begin to enjoy intimacy. So it's like it starts in the heart, truth, in the heart, in the depths of your very being, which spills out into deeds. Then if you want, you can use words, right? 1 Samuel 15, but Samuel replied, what is more pleasing to the Lord? Your burnt offerings and sacrifices, or your obedience to his voice? Listen! Exclamation mark. I always tell you guys to pay attention to the exclamation marks, okay? Exclamation mark. Listen! Obedience is better than sacrifice. Submission is better than offering the fat of rams. 1 Corinthians 13. Though I speak, actually it's verse 1, anyway. Though I speak with the tongues of men and of angels, but I have not love, I just become sounding brass or clanging cymbal. And though I have the gift of prophecy, and I understand all mysteries and all knowledge, and though I have all faith so that I could remove mountains, but have not love, I am nothing. And though I bestow all my goods to feed the poor, and though I give my body to be burned, martyrdom, but have not love, it profits me nothing. He says it. There you go. It's not about the actual deed. That's not what it comes down to. It comes down to love. And love isn't this tangible thing that you can buy at the store and carry with you. It's in the depths of who you are. It's in the depths of your heart. It has to come from an outpouring of that truth. Truth is the reality of the matter, the reality of what's in your heart. So I like this. If you take no notes today and you wanted to remember this one, just this one little sentence here, the heart of the matter is that it's a matter of the heart. I thought that was really witty. The matter of the heart is that it's a matter of the heart. There it is. Heart of the matter, matter of the heart. It all comes down to that. What's going on in your heart? That's where worship overflows from. That's where intimacy flows from. That's where the deeds flow from. That's where the speaking flows from. It all comes from there. When we're obedient to God, when we listen, when we love what we were created to do. The heart of the matter is that it's a matter of the heart. When you do it with the right heart, everything changes. When you look at all the greats of the Bible, they're all great and enjoyed intimacy with God. Why? We discussed it. They were all obedient. They were willing to do whatever God asked. And it all flowed from there. Worship is joy, love expressed overwhelmingly from you being obedient to the Lord. Psalm 89:15. Happy are those who hear the joyful call to worship, for they will walk in the light of your presence. There it is. Who hear the joyful call to worship. You guys know, again, you're called to worship. You were created to worship. You were created to love God, to enjoy intimacy with God. Happy are those who hear the joyful call to worship, for they will walk in the light of your presence, Lord. They rejoice all day long in your wonderful reputation. They exalt in your righteousness. You are their glorious strength, and it pleases you to make us strong. Yes, our protection comes from the Lord, and He, the Holy One of Israel, has given us our King. We hear the call. We do what we were meant to do, and it just comes out. They walked in presence. We can walk in presence with the Lord, and it's all based on obedience. It's the foundation to worship. All week long when you're like, yes, Lord, I work for you, not for anyone else. You are the one who's given me my body, the ability to work, and I will use it to the best that I can for you. You know there's work in heaven? Sorry, guys, for those of you who are looking for a retirement plan. In heaven, we work. We work for the Lord, and it's a beautiful and joyous time because you get to do what you were created to do. And it's just, I don't know how else to say it. It's just overwhelming. And when you are doing that, you're walking in worship with God. You're walking in intimacy with Him. So I'll just read what I wrote there. Being created for, we experience joy. A joy because of what He created. We experience His smile, and it's our song. Sunday is a reflection of what He has done, is doing, and will do. It's a love expressed. And it's not just Sunday. It's all week long. Don't forget that, guys. Don't get hung up on music, on lyrics, on, what do we do on Sunday morning? Worship is all week long. It's listening and walking with the Lord all week long and expressing your love to Him all week long. The reason why we do it here on Sundays is because we get to do it together. And when you do it together, when you get to say, this is what God did this week in my life, and He's so good, and He's so awesome, and then you tell me of what He's done in your life this week, and we begin to share that, oh my goodness, how do you not get excited? How do you not do the little baby thing and just want to dance and shake your butt and be like, oh, God is good. God is so good. Look at what He's done in your life. Look at what He's doing in my life. I'm so excited for what's to come. What's next? That is what should be going on in your heart when you worship. It's an excitement, a joy, an appreciation, an expression of love. Will you bow your heads and pray with me? Jack, if you can turn it off. Thanks. Lord, I like that song, Bring Us Back to the Heart of Worship, because there it is, in the heart